today, I'm hoping the audio is working. I was messing around with it a little bit because there's always a weird delay on here. And I've been trying to fix it, but I think I'm going to try and actually fix it for the next stream. I just put it back to what I normally have for this one, so hopefully it's not too weird. But today we have a stock market update, so we're going to be talking about that. And as you can see on my left, I actually have a different setup right now. Ever since I moved over to this orientation in the desk, I haven't had the second screen up and running. So because it's a little bit far away from me, I just use the TV as my second screen. But I decided that I wanted to see how it would work because there's been some people talking in the chat lately, so I wanted to make sure I could participate in that conversation. So if you see me looking over this way, I'm looking at my screen capture software just to make sure that everything's still running. But before I get started on anything, I'm going to mention right away that you can go up in the top right corner of the screen and you can click on the I icon to vote in today's poll. This week's poll. So this poll will be able to fluctuate the values of the stock market. So before we really get into things, let's update the stock market before we start talking about other stuff. So right now you can see how the stock market stands. Megan is still atop the market, but I am fairly close behind, and then there's a big gap with everyone else, and we do have some people who have taken losses on their original investment. So what we're going to do is we're going to check what is going on with the stock values, and I am actually going to do one last check of the polls just to make sure there aren't any last minute votes on the poll from last week, and then we can update the stock market from there. So I'm going to check this. It might give a little bit of a sound, and I think I got it in time. So here are the updates to the stock market. We're going to start over here with blue. Blue received a 0% of the vote. Green received a 66% of the vote. Yellow received a 0% of the vote. And red received a 33% of the vote. So if we plug in the market factor, then we're just going to get a number between, let me clear out my screen here so I can show you guys. We'll get a number between 0 and 50, and what is it going to be? It is a 28. So technically a bad day in the market, but or just sort of a mediocre day in the market, but as we can see, red and green were both over the threshold necessary, so they are taking a gain today. So I'm going to hit new market, zero out the market factor, and these are our new values for the stock market. So we can go back and look, and we can see that Megan has taken a pretty big jump from her previous position, whereas I have taken, I haven't really moved much, and we can see a lot of people have moved around. So I'm actually going to have to resort these guys from largest to smallest, and I believe OC has jumped up above Mike and Boring Boris, and I'm not sure if the guys down here reorganized any, but I'm sure that if you're watching, you probably saw that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take these values and plug them into our historic data. So 113, 110, 113, 110, and our last two, 192, 315. Was that 315? I'm not sure that makes sense, because green should have gone up. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at blue. Okay, never mind. So 192 and 315. 192, 315. So blue actually took a hit. That's what I was confused by, because I was thinking blue was green for a second. So let me put a 20 in here. We'll click update. and you can see that the graph has updated. Blue is sort of on a hump right now, which, I mean, we've seen this in the past and it has bounced back, but we'll see where that goes. Green has taken somewhat of a spike, and for the first time in a very long time, red is not the lowest value. Oh, actually, I guess in week 18 we had that, but it wasn't by a significant amount, and today it's not a significant amount as well. So this is the market we're looking at right now. You can see that yellow is actually fairly low right now, which is why I did not move too much, because I have a large investment in yellow, but also a large investment in green, and green went up, but yellow went down. I think I actually gained a little bit, because green went up more than yellow went down, and red also went up. We're going to see how this plays out. I don't think I'm going to change anything with my investments right now. If blue goes down a little bit more, maybe gets into the 200s, I will consider buying in some extra blue. But that's pretty much the entire stock market update. So once again, if you didn't already, please vote in the top right corner. It just keeps this going. It keeps it interesting, and keeps me honest, because I also vote in the poll. So I don't want to be the main driving factor in the stock market. So the other thing that I want to talk about is also having to do with the stock market, and it actually has to do with how long this particular stock market is going to run. So I've been running this, as you can see from the historic data, for 20 weeks now, and we've seen a pretty good fluctuation and interesting trends with the stock, where blue went down substantially and then has gone on pretty much a crazy angle upwards since then. But what I really want to talk about is when we're going to cut this season off. So I was thinking about it, and I think that it would be a good stopping point to stop at 26 weeks. Now, that might seem to be a weird number for you, but that's actually half of a year, because if you don't know, there's 52 weeks in a year. So that would mean that this stock market has run for 6 months approximately, and we've seen a lot of fluctuation in that. So I know there might be a couple people still buying in, but the reason that I want to set a stopping point is so that, one, this isn't dragging on forever, and I also want there to be some point where we can make changes. So there have been some changes that I've been thinking about making. I have mentioned a couple of them before. One of them is the way that people buy in. So originally and currently, people buy in at a solid 100,000 Jonos. Now, at the beginning of this was fair, because we saw that all of the stock started out at 100, and so even Steven had a value of 100. Everybody had 100,000. But the problem with that is that, as you can see from even Steven, the economy itself, the whole market, has inflated slightly. This is completely random that it's happened. It's not anything that's supposed to happen. The trends, the fact that I'm doing things randomly and the way I have it set up should have it set up so that the market in general does not increase or decrease, but fluctuates a little bit over time. But we saw a lot of positive change throughout the beginning of the stock market. It's been on a little bit of a downwards trend recently, but this is the current situation we're in. So I was thinking that it may be better for people who are entering the stock market to buy in at whatever value even Steven is currently at. So I think that would be a more fair way for people to enter the stock market, because Megan and I bought into the market immediately when the stock market began. So there was only one fluctuation before we actually bought in, I believe. And so that gave us a large advantage, because ever since then, the stock market has increased in value. So when people buy in with 100,000, they technically don't have as much money as we did when we bought in. So I want to make this fair, and I want to make it a competitive competition. So that's why I'm thinking that um, that's what we're going to do. So the value of Even Steven, as opposed to the value of Boring Boris, will be the measure of how much money people have when they buy into the stock market. So this will make it fair for people. Say if they were buying in the 20th week, then they would be able to still have a competitive edge amongst the competition, assuming that nobody has significantly increased their portfolio. So it is something to say that Megan and myself have gained significantly more than Even Steven. This may be due to the fact that we are the people. I specifically am the person who can change my values the most, just because it's so convenient. But Megan also lives with me, so that makes it easier for her. I'm seeing some people in the chat. How's it going? So that's the idea that we're basically going with, is that Even Steven is going to be the S&P 500 for our stock market, and the current assets of Even Steven will be the value that you gain when you enter the stock market, at whatever time you enter. That also means if the stock market goes down, you will have less money when you start. But this should keep things fair, because if that were the case, then someone buying in would have a significant advantage. So that's pretty much what we're going to do. I'm also planning to add a lot to this Excel sheet. So I originally put this together pretty fast, and it turned out pretty well. I like all the graphs and whatnot that I have, but there are some things that I think are missing. So perhaps it would be interesting to see trend lines of everybody throughout the stock market, so we could see when people passed other people. That would mean that we could see the actual trend of the market based off of Even Steven's factors. So I'm going to see how crowded that gets, and we'll play around with that a little bit. But if you guys have any suggestions, please leave those in the chat. I'll be looking through any comments that are posted to try and get the best idea. And obviously, we have 6 weeks. So if you have any ideas after this week, feel free to contact me in any way, whether it be on the current stock market update that's up, or you could even just comment on this video, or you could send me a message if you have my contact information. But I am just trying to brainstorm ideas for how we can make this a more competitive and more interesting experience for people to watch. So I think that the graphs will actually help a lot, because what can happen is if someone were to join into or to jump onto the series fairly late, they would be able to see the progress that everybody else has gone through. So if someone had dropped all the way down and then come back up to win the whole thing, they would have a picture of that, as opposed to just seeing that in the end they were on top. So I think there's a little bit more to be done there. So that's pretty much everything that I have in my mind right now for what we're going to change. And I guess we'll probably just try to make it a precedent of having a half-year long run. So I don't know if we're going to have a break in between this stock market ending and the new stock market beginning, but we will see how that goes when we get there. So that's pretty much everything I want to say. If there's any questions in the chat while I'm signing off here, please let me know. I see one that says, how about add in randomly selected special events like new stock competitors, new colors, added market crash, or loss of competitor color. That is something that I've actually thought about. So I was considering that we could add some more stock in here. Now, the one problem with this is that it does thin the market out a little bit. And with the current amount of people that we have voting in the polls, it tends to cause a decrease in a lot of stock. Whereas, because if we had more people voting than we had stock, then it would be fine, because then everybody would be getting some slight percentage, and there wouldn't be these large spastic fluctuations that we're seeing with the graph here. But I am thinking about adding possibly one or a few more colors into the market. And as goes for the random events, that's kind of what this market factor is supposed to be. So the market factor, as we saw a couple weeks ago, was a 50, which is essentially a crash in the market because everybody takes a hit unless somebody has unless somebody has over 50% of the vote, which is very difficult for one specific stock to have. Now, we saw that this week. Green had 66. That's due to the fact that 3 people were voting. So a lot of things will be more interesting once we have more attention to the series. But that is a good suggestion, and I will be considering that. I don't know if there's any other questions, but I will mention I am organizing with my friends to have the debate I've been talking about for the past few weeks. It's just been kind of a weird scheduling thing, especially with finals coming up. But I think that not this weekend, but the weekend after, we will be having that debate. So that should be a pretty solid date. I don't think there's anything that could come up for that. And also, I'm brainstorming ideas for what to talk about on this Saturday, because I did miss out last Saturday due to the fact I didn't really have a topic to discuss. So if you have any suggestions on what you want me to explain this Saturday, I'm very open to it. But until then, I think I'm going to be signing off. So I want to thank you guys for watching, and don't forget to vote in the poll if you haven't already. It will be live until next Thursday, and hopefully next Thursday we should see another addition to the drawing. I know Mr. Positive should be working on his addition to the add-on drawing sometime this week, and then next week you will see my second addition to the drawing. So until then, I'm going to be signing off, but thank you for watching, and goodbye.